What's up, my comic comrades? The High Evolutionary will be making his MCU debut as the Big Bad in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which is no doubt because of his ties to Adam Warlock, who is also going to be making his MCU debut in the same film. Anyway, while regular readers of Marvel Comics will definitely know who the High Evolutionary is, he isn't really known to the broader audience, so we're here to give you everything you need to know about this mysterious Marvel villain before his live-action reveal. The High Evolutionary made his first appearance in the Mighty Thor issue 134 in November of 1966. He was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. The High Evolutionary's origin is first given to us in the Mighty Thor issue 135. He lays it out to us and Thor after the Man-Beast and Evolutionary's new men are stopped. High Evolutionary says, "And now I shall have no further need for my protective helmet, for I and my Knights of Wundagore must soon depart as well." We see that they're shocked that the High Evolutionary's face was just a helmet and that there was a normal human under there. High Evolutionary responds, "Yes, I was a humble research scientist, those long years ago before it all began," as he starts to break down his origin and backstory. He goes on to say, "While working in my chosen field of science and genetics, I created the world's first genetic accelerator. But my colleagues merely scoffed at me, saying, 'Impossible, ridiculous, it can never work. It's an ugly mockery. No man has the right to tamper with evolution.' But determined to prove my evolutionary theories, I subjected my pet Dalmatian to the rays of my machine. And the result was a success, a tragic success, as the Dalmatian was shot thinking it was some wild beast." High Evolutionary holds his mutated pet, saying, "I must first find a place to work with my subjects that will be safe from unthinking bumblers." Bumblers, huh? That's a word you don't hear often. Anyway, he continues to tell us while searching for a proper spot, "Fate bestowed her blessing upon me. I discovered a load of uranium, making me wealthy beyond my wildest dreams. Wealthy enough to create the place called Wundagore. Here I created my new men, modeling them after the knights of old, striving to teach them a code of honor and chivalry. Two of my most trusted new men are Tagar and Porga, who acted as my agents traveling the world to bring me information and vital supplies. But now I realize we can remain here no longer. So long as Wundagore endures, mankind will ever be in danger." This gave us a brief peek into his origin, as basically he just tells us that he was a scientist who specializes in genetics who wanted to excel evolution, so he created a machine that he tested on his pet and then made what he called his new men, which he used as knights of old, always striving to hit the next stage of evolution. But this was only expanded upon in later titles, such as Spider-Woman issue 1, X-Factor annual 3 from 1988, Punisher annual 1 from 1988, and the list goes on. So let's go through a few of them. Alright, so the man who would become High Evolutionary is named Herbert Wyndham. He was born in England, Manchester to be exact, and was a student at Oxford in the 1930s. He became obsessed in the genetic work of Nathaniel Essex, aka the man who would become Mr. Sinister. Inspired by Essex, Herbert would start experimenting with genetic manipulation and built a machine called the genetic accelerator, which he used to evolve rats in his mom's basement as seen in X-Factor Annual 3. He would soon go to a genetics conference where he was approached by an inhuman geneticist named Fader. He gave Herbert papers that contained the blueprints of cracking the genetic code. This gave Herbert what he needed to take his experiments to the next level, allowing him to create a serum that he called Isotope A. After this, Herbert would start working with another scientist named Jonathan Drew, who was the father of Jessica Drew, aka the first Spider-Woman, which we see in Spider-Woman issue 1 from 1978. Jessica Drew became sick from exposure to uranium, at which point Herbert saw it as an opportunity to inject her with one of his evolutionary serums that he made from spiders, of course giving her the powers that would lead her to become Spider-Woman. So yes, Herbert, aka High Evolutionary, is responsible for the creation of Spider-Woman and several other Marvel characters' powers, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Herbert would also create the Citadel of Science and create the half-animal humanoid beings that he dubbed the New Men, which he mentioned in the Mighty Thor 135, and of course he decided to accelerate or evolve himself to enhance his mind, calling himself the High Evolutionary, donning his iconic costume. Hey, did you know that the High Evolutionary has a metal mohawk because his hair started thinning and he couldn't grow a real one? Okay, that's probably not true, but it could be. The fact is, thinning hair strikes many a men's voluptuous brain beards. We all know that 2 out of 3 men experience some form of hair loss by the time they reach 35. In fact, hundreds of thousands of guys like you already trust Keeps to help them maintain their flowing manes, because Keeps offers clinically proven and personalized treatment plans at an affordable price. You start by talking to one of their licensed physicians online without having to visit a doctor's office. That doctor will then help you choose the products and treatments that will work best for you. After that, Keeps makes it even easier by letting you skip the lines at the pharmacy and delivering your treatment right to your front door every 3 months. The sooner you get started with Keeps, the sooner you'll start to see the results, so don't put it off any longer. Keeps will also have your back throughout the process with 24/7 access to their network of expert medical advisors, prescribers, and care specialists who will answer whatever questions you might have along the way. Because hair loss stops with Keeps. Just head over to keeps.com/variant comics and get on the road to Hairtown. And when you sign up with our link, you'll get 50% off your first order. Again, that's keeps.com/variant comics. Okay, so what we've come to learn about the High Evolutionary over the years is that depending on what his ambitions are and what he can gain from his experiments, he has been a force sometimes for what he considers the greater good and sometimes for his own selfish ambitions and goals. Regardless, over time he has become such a powerhouse in the Marvel Universe that he was once able to create a device to steal the power of Silver Surfer, stripping him of the power cosmic and converting him into a mortal man, then using the power himself as seen in the first issue of the 2011 Silver Surfer series. At which point he would do the opposite of Galactus, and instead of devour planets, draining them from life, he would find dead planets and give them life. What a nice guy. High Evolutionary is also responsible for several superpowered beings in the Marvel Universe, like Jessica Drew's Spider-Woman. Remember, it's his serum that gave her spider-like abilities. Then you also have Adam Warlock. Though he didn't create Adam Warlock, a group of scientists called the Enclave did. High Evolutionary did, however, enhance Adam Warlock as well as imbue the soul gem in his forehead, bringing him to incredible power levels. This is why I think High Evolutionary is going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, because he will somehow be connected to Adam Warlock, hopefully in his creation. We already know he's been in a cocoon, as we saw at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but High Evolutionary could still have a hand in his creation. We also know High Evolutionary got obsessed with genetics because of Nathaniel Essex, aka Mr. Sinister from the X-Men universe, meaning High Evolutionary could theoretically be another connection to the X-Men and mutants making their way into the MCU, especially since his whole deal is genetics and the next stage of evolution. But it doesn't stop there. High Evolutionary is also responsible for the powers of the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. You see, in Uncanny Avengers issue 4, the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are captured by High Evolutionary in his citadel. He says to them, elevated heart rate, caffeine addiction, insomnia, neurosis, self-doubt. Must my failure put themselves on parade? Quicksilver asks, your failures? Evolutionary responds, there are evolutionary missteps on the way to greatness. Missteps like the both of you. Wanda asks, you're our father? He responds, don't be ridiculous. Is the carpenter beholden to every chair? The baker to his morning bread? You're nothing more than an attempt to answer a question. A poor attempt. I took you from your true parents when you were babies, made my alterations, then upon my disappointment, returned you to their care disguised as common mutants. Not only confirming that Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are no longer mutants, but the fact that they were only ever thought to be mutants because of the High Evolutionary who gave them powers, but considered them failed experiments and returned them back to their parents. But now that you know the High Evolutionary's origin, let's take a look at his powers and abilities. First and foremost, he is one of the greatest minds on Earth. He's extremely knowledgeable not only in the medical and biological fields, but also with technology. The dude increases intelligence, but also unlocks some of his brain's extrasensory functions, such as telekinesis, telepathy, and even cosmic awareness. He even has clairvoyance and a danger sense, but that's just all his brain. He's also evolved his body as part of his evolution, and his suit became a cybernetic exoskeleton that is incredibly advanced. This exoskeleton of armor gives him incredible durability, as well as the ability to create force fields. He can alter his size and fly. Of course, it also grants him some superhero strength and energy blasts that he can fire from his hands, much like Iron Man's repulsors. The suit also has built-in life support that protects him from extreme temperatures, and even has backup data for all of his brain patterns, considering that's the most valuable and important part of the High Evolutionary. Essentially, High Evolutionary is pretty much immortal because if his body is damaged, his armor can completely heal him. He's a perfect example. If you're extremely smart, you're also extremely powerful because you could use your brain to create devices and machines like exoskeletons that make you a match for any Avenger. But there you have it, guys, the origin of the High Evolutionary. However, you know how we do here. We always got to give you some reading recommendations for the characters we're talking about. So if you want some good High Evolutionary reading, check out Thor issues 134 through 135, Spider-Woman issue 1, X-Factor Annual 3, Marvel 2-in-1 issue 72, Uncanny Avengers Volume 2, and the Worlds Collide story arc in the 2016 Avengers run. And that's gonna bring today's episode to a close, but if you like this video, be sure to check out this one right here. And if you like all of our content, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. But other than that, we'll see you next time when we talk about all things comics.